Hello, everyone. Father Draper here at St. Anne Catholic Church in Dixon, Illinois, where I have the privilege of speaking with Sister Michelle Marie Evinger from the Contemplative Sisters of St. John. And it's a great privilege to speak with you, Sister, as we prepare for this Catholic Schools Week. There's a day during our week especially devoted to celebrating vocations. And so it's a joy to speak with Sister today about the vocation to the consecrated religious life. Sister and I have been friends for many years, really since the beginning of my priesthood, and she's done a great favor to me and to our parish and school by adopting us spiritually for this year to offer her prayers and her sacrifices in a particular way for all of us. So we thank Sister for her vocation and for all that she's been doing for us throughout this year. Sister, could you just begin by telling us a little bit about yourself, including your family and where you're from?
Well, first of all, I want to say hello to you, Father Draper. Thank you for your words. Hello to all the students and the staff that will be watching this. So where am I from? I'm from North Dakota. I grew up in the western part of the state. I come from a large family. I'm the oldest of 10 children. There were 6 boys and 4 girls. We always lived on the same place my whole life. We didn't move. We had lots of different animals, chickens and cows and buffalo. So we had a lot of work to do on the farm. We also had a big garden. We had a lot of good times and challenging times together with such a big family. I was also homeschooled. I did go to public school for 3 years. And then after that, my parents started homeschooling us. So I graduated from homeschool. Yeah, it's really a lot of times, I guess, spent out in nature is probably a lot of how I grew up on a farm and gardening and playing outside and working outside.
And in that environment and that family upbringing, how did you come to know the Lord and hear his call to you towards the consecrated religious life?
Yes, so in fact, my family was a really practicing Catholic family from the start. So I was named after St. Michael the Archangel. And in fact, I wanted to mention that my middle baptismal name is Anne. And so your parish of St. Anne's is a special place.
Yes.
So yeah, in fact, I would say that the Lord probably just spoke to me through very ordinary things. Growing up in a family where our Catholic faith was normal, I guess, reading books on the saints and stuff was common for me. So like that opened up in my heart an awareness of vocations. Seeing sisters in a habit was not something that happened hardly at all. And I remember actually the very first time I saw a sister in habit was when I was in the grocery store with my mom. And there were I think there were 2 fully habited Benedictine sisters who were passing through just getting groceries from another state. And I remember just looking at them, age 7, and just staring at them and like thinking it was like Saint Therese who came out of a book. But I think little things like that actually probably were the Lord's way also of drawing me. I think you can't actually underestimate the witness of someone who just passes through. I mean, the fact of religious or even priests, or just being in books is one thing and seeing them in life is another. I think definitely I have to mention that a prayer life is going to be strong in opening my heart to being open to what the Lord would call me to do. But I don't even want to say that that's again like something that the Lord can't bypass, because God can speak to us through anything. It's true that he did speak to me in prayer, just praying the rosary together with family and things like that. But he can do all sorts of things. He can speak to people through a song on the radio if he wants to. God is all powerful. God is all good. God is all loving, and he can break through our distractions when he wants to.
Thank you, Sister. You spoke about the habit, and that's the particular dress, right, that a religious sister
Yes.
wears. Um, I know that you have a veil that you wear, just like a woman getting married will wear a veil on her wedding day. You too wear a veil. Could you talk a little bit about the significance or symbolism of that in particular, and maybe the other parts of your dress?
Priests, when they have the chalice, they will put a veil over it too. Like it's a symbol that something is set aside. Like for a wedding, you wear a veil, you're set aside for your husband. For me, for a religious, we wear a veil as a sign of something deeper, what's inside, that we are set aside for the Lord. The veil doesn't make the religious, but it's a sign to the world that I belong to Christ. And so for the rest of my habit, well, it's hard for you to see me completely, but I have what's called a scapular. That's the part of our habit that goes back to probably mostly Carmelite tradition, but most other communities have adopted that. It used to be like the apron of poor religious or poor people in general. And but Mary, she took that, wearing that, and she blessed it as a sign of being really given, consecrated to her. And so now, I mean, some of you have seen the little miniature form of a scapular that some people wear or receive on their first communion. So that's just a miniature form of the same thing. It's a sign that we belong to Our Lady and want to imitate her life of being given completely to Jesus.
So the veil, if I may go back to that, symbolizes that you are the bride of Jesus, that you're the bride of Christ, right? And
Mhm.
when you said that the veil is a symbol of something being set apart, that's really what being consecrated means, right? That you're set apart for
Yeah.
the Lord, so that your life in your heart and also just in how you dress is set apart. It's different than, say, the life of people who are out in the world. Now, your particular calling or vocation is to be a contemplative religious sister. So I think when oftentimes we encounter religious sisters, like maybe the ones that you ran into in the grocery store that day, we often think of sisters that we know because, say, they teach in schools, or maybe they work in hospitals or help out at food soup kitchens. But your being a contemplative sister is a little bit different. So what does it mean to be a contemplative, and how is that really also a service to the church?
Yes, very, very deep, good question. Um, so yes, it's what, like you pointed out, there are many varieties of ways of serving the Lord, many different vocations. There, you all have moms and dads, and that's a vocation. There's Father Draper, he's a priest, that's a vocation. There's religious, and within religious life, like Father was just saying, there are many different ways of serving. And the contemplative life is really a life of prayer. First of all, every religious community has prayer as part of their calling. But for a contemplative, like our whole life is really to be given in that intercession, that offering of love of our whole day, to being with the Lord. Because prayer isn't just talking to God. Prayer is also listening to God. and and so the contemplative, I don't know, maybe it's been helping me, because actually it's a question because so many people ask the question, and I ask myself more the question too: what does it mean to be a contemplative? Because everybody's called to prayer, everybody's called to give their life completely to God. But I guess there's something about us just in the root of the word. Uh, there's two things: the contemplation. So that word means with, and templation is like related to two things, like a template, like an image of something, and a temple. So it's like being made a temple of God with Christ in a certain way, or being conformed to Christ, being made like Christ. Everyone's called to that, like I said, but like our life is to like put that in emphasis. Like our whole life is that. We're all going to one day be living in heaven, where everyone is going to live 100% contemplative life. We're going to be, seeing God face to face. And so it's like we start that here.
You're a kind of template or an image to us of what our lives will be in heaven, what we hope for. And that is a life of intimate prayer and communion with God, where
Mhm.
we are always enjoying seeing Him, and He has the delight of always seeing us, totally in love with Him.
Yes, I think that's the best thing to say about, when you talk about like how did the Lord speak to us, just to know that God is in love with us and He wants us to be with Him. And those little moments of prayer that we have in our day, everyone or should or could or could set aside to be open for that. Um, those are opportunities for us to start living now what we're made to live forever.
And if you could maybe share with us just a little bit about, say, what your day looks like. How does that contemplation look in a given day in the convent?
Yes, so it's kind of common for contemplative sisters, not necessarily everyone, but most contemplatives get up pretty early. So my day now, we've kind of readjusted our schedule a little bit recently. So we used to get up around 5:30, but we're now getting up about 4:40, and we're starting prayer at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we start out with an hour of silent prayer, which is like Eucharistic adoration. Um, then at 6 o'clock, we have the office of lauds together. That's the prayer of the church, which consists of psalms and other prayers, which we sing or chant. Then after that is breakfast time and personal Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina is like reading the Word of God or reading spiritual readings. It's like reading with God. We also could do study in the morning and some work, manual work too. So then we have Mass now at, first of all, we have the midday office or like another time of Psalms. And then we have Mass at 10:30. And then after that, we have a little interval of time that we can use for just little things that need to be done before lunch. We have lunch at 12:15. And then we have some personal time that we can use for prayer, reading, to rest, take a nap, whatever we need to really be present to our sisters also who live in community with us, because part of our vocation is always incarnated still. We live on earth, and so like we live with real people. And so it's not just me and Jesus all day long. I interact with my sisters too. So yeah, in the afternoon we have a good chunk of time, probably close to 2 hours that we have for manual work, which can include the duties of the house, like cooking and cleaning and laundry and all those kind of things that need to be done, but which also includes for us some craft making, like we do different things like making leather book covers and rosaries and cards and things like that to sell to help support ourselves. Then we have Vespers at 4:30 and another hour of silent prayer, Eucharistic adoration. And then we have dinner. And then we have evening, we have also time, more personal time for extra prayer if we wish for ourselves to pray alone. Or again, we could do spiritual reading or something like that, a more quiet evening. Then at 8 o'clock, we sing the Salve Regina together. And then after that's like a grand silence time, meaning that we don't talk to each other. It's really a time to give that space, that quiet for God to be able to speak to us even more so than all day long. All day long, we have times we can talk, but we want to be attentive to the voice of the Lord through the daily happenings and through our sisters. But that time of grand silence and any other times of silent prayer are really more privileged times to really be open to God speaking to me personally. Yeah, so usually I'm in bed by 8:30 or 9 because the morning starts early. So good 8 hours of sleep is kind of necessary.
Yes. So it sounds like a lot of time in prayer, a lot of time working, time with your sisters, time to just relax and kind of refresh to be able to give yourself wholeheartedly back into those other activities. So
Yeah, there would be something else to mention, I guess, in fact, because what I gave you was like a normal weekday. Our Sundays are a little bit different because our Sunday is really like to celebrate the resurrection. It's more of a fraternal day. So we'll also have a time of recreation with our sisters. We'll be, eat together, speak at mealtime. Maybe we'll have a couple of extra offices. We have the office of vigils and we also have the office of compline in the evening. So yeah.
And that's the liturgy of the hours, right? That
Yeah.
all religious and priests pray. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Sister, for sharing with us about your life and your vocation. And thank you for living it in a very intentional way for us here at St. Anne's. We very much appreciate it and depend on it. When we think of serving the Lord, oftentimes we think of those external activities of, say, teaching or assisting others, helping the poor. But it's really the prayer of the church, prayer of our contemplative religious that really kind of give the fuel that we need in order to serve God and our neighbor. So thank you for providing that for us, and thank you for sharing your time with us today. And a happy World Day of Prayer for Consecrated Life to you on February 2nd. That's a very
thank you very much.
Honor our religious. So thank you, Sister. So,
thank you too.
Again, we had the pleasure of listening to Sister Michelle Marie explain her life and her vocation as a consecrated religious. And let's please pray for her. And thank you again for your prayers for us. So
thank you. God bless you. Bye.